Hello again, this is Sam Pollock, speaking here with my team FakeID. We're going to be showing off the mobile beta milestone for our game Idle Tower Defense. So the team again, we've got Sam Pollock, myself as producer.
I am Morgan Ethier, and I'm the software lead.
I'm Erik Enos, and I'm a general programmer.
I'm Robert Wymer, and I'm a programmer.
And I'm Lucas Dunster, and I'm the designer.
Excellent. Okay, and we're going to start the presentation by passing the screen over to Morgan, and she's going to show the project running on a very real mobile device. Let's get it started. Oh, I think you're muted, Morgan.
Yes, I am muted.
Okay, welcome back.
So, as you can see, I have the game currently running on a mobile device. I will resume the game, and you're able to actually move the tile. The big reason I'm actually showing this off, mostly we could do it in LD player, but the one thing we couldn't show off in LD player is the pinch to zoom, which actually you're able to actually move the actual, like, you're actually able to change the size, but not. That was just something we quickly wanted to show off before we actually got into the presentation proper. So I believe I will pass it off to...
Thank you very much. Okay, and now I'm going to open up the project, and I'll take you for a tour. So here we have it. You can see the game running here. We can check out the options screen, still works. The instructions screen where you can check out how to play, and then let's get right into the game. So we've got the tap to drag movement. The enemies are spawning from these enemy spawning locations, and we've got these towers to build. Once you build them, they'll fire at the enemies who come nearby. We have a new death animation that Alex worked on, Robert Wymer rather, and the enemies will drop a coin which we can collect. But if you don't want to collect each coin, we can also build some of these new tower types. Oh, we've run out of resources. Let me run it again here. We've got new tower types, including a coin gathering tower, which will need a little more money saved up for. And so this tower will suck up the coins that drop nearby and store them for you, so you don't need to worry about collecting them before they disappear. And to pick those up, you can click the tower to... No, you can't. Okay, we've got our first bug found here, but we're just getting ready for moving into the our next milestone, which is going to be major bug fixes. And in addition to those towers, we also have a couple more, including the ice tower and the driller tower. The driller tower you can place on top of these resource nodes to fill up with resources, which you can click and collect. And now we're going to take a deeper look at some of the scripts and how this works. We'll start with Erik, and he'll talk a bit about the map generation.
Yeah, so in Road Builder.
Road Builder, yep.
So in this script, I have three touch events: begin touch, move event, and end event. So it takes the beginning touch and takes the first object, and then while you're doing the move touch event, it selects all the tiles that you move over.
Oh, and then when you say this, I realized I didn't demo your new road building. Let me show that in action.
And then when you do the end touch events, when you lift your finger off, it takes all those tiles that are in the... It might not work in-game because you have to do it in the simulator because it's all touch.
That's right. Right, of course.
So when you lift your finger off the tiles, it takes all the tiles that you hovered over and makes a road and connects the edges all cleanly, so you can make all waves and stuff as demoed over there. Okay. And in the tile options, this is where I'm checking each corner. So every tile that it picks up has left, right, up, and down. And depending if there's a tile above it, it'll have a true for up. If there's something below it, it'll have a true for down. And then depending if it has up that's true and a left that's true, it'll do like the left angle tile, and the other way around, if it's up and right, it'll do the right facing tile. And that's how I'm doing all the angles. That's pretty much it for this script.
Okay, fantastic. Next up, we're going to have Alex talking a bit about the enhancements and improvements behind the scenes in enemies.
Yeah, for sure. So the major changes to the enemy for this release was mainly the AI and the transitioning between the pathfinding state and the patrol state. Um, so there's a bit of just kind of like setup code for that in the enemy controller. And then I also added a death animation. So that sets the integer for the proper animation state in the destroy enemy function. Um, and then yeah, we just wait for the animation to stop playing, and then we destroy the object or the enemy. Sam, if you could go to Pathfind state.
Yeah.
So yeah, so then this was the other major state I worked on for this release. So when an enemy gets instantiated into the game, spawns into the game, he starts off in a Pathfind state. So what we do is when we enter this state, we look for the closest patrol point. There's 4 patrol points that border the inner ring of the game board. So the enemy will loop through that array of waypoints, find the shortest waypoint, and then they set that as their target destination. And then, well, actually, technically not. It doesn't use that waypoint. We want all the enemies to walk in a clockwise rotation around the game board. So we actually find the closest um, uh, waypoint, and then we to the next index. So then that guarantees that they're never going to walk counterclockwise. They're always walking clockwise. And then we just move to that point. And then once we get to that point, that's what triggers the switch into the patrol state. So yeah, then the state machine switches over, and then the enemy just continues to patrol the inner ring. Other work I did for this release was I worked on the surge controller and the enemy spawner. So so the surge controller, still some bugs going on in here, but that's yeah, a
To
work
be
in progress.
expected.
Yeah, exactly. So Search Controller is a singleton, just because it's being referenced by a lot of different things. And we always want to make sure there's only one instance of that Search Controller. And then this kind of runs kind of how many enemies are spawning. So I think right now it's about every 45 seconds there's a surge, and that increases the amount of enemies that are spawned by each spawner. And that's kind of what drives the difficulty of the game. So we have a lot of kind of functions that just help with that stuff. So as the game gets further, we increase the amount of time the surge is active, and we can decrease the amount of time the surge is inactive. So there's more surges more often. And this is represented by the little slider in the top right corner of the game. So once this loads up. So yeah, that's the search bar, and then that'll just fill up over a certain amount of time. So it kind of gives it like a reoccurring, like pressure on the player. And then just as each surge increases kind of the next surge, so then there's going to be more enemy units that are going to be spawned. There's going to be less time between each spawn or each surge. And yeah, that's about it. And then for the enemy spawner, we just moved to more of a wave-based spawning system. So instead of just like spawning enemies every few seconds, we spawn a group of enemies at a time. We have minimum and maximum values, so it randomizes. It chooses between that and randomizes the exact duration of time between each spawn. So adds a bit more fluidity to that and a bit more guessing for the player. And yeah, I think that's about it. And then it has functions to handle the increase of spawning from the search controller. Um, and yeah, I think that's about it for my part.
Awesome. Next up, Lucas is going to speak a bit about that pinch to zoom and the new map improvements.
All right, so over in the move camera,
Yeah.
uh,
And sorry, before you get started,
the-
I don't know if I demonstrated your new map, so I'm going to open it up here in the game scene.
oh yeah,
Oh, sorry,
you'll have to
sorry.
swap out of the simulator
Yeah.
just to trigger it. But what I was working with was updating our map, so we use these icons. The map's meant to be more zoomed out, so you can see a more overhead view without the different models, so you know exactly what you're looking at. So there's different icons to represent resources, enemies, player towers, and enemy spawners. Um,
Okay, now I'll get back to the script.
yep, and here, this is what I did for the pinch to zoom. It's just a little bit lower. There. So basically, it tracks the different touches, and depending on if they've moved closer together or further apart, it will set the camera to a lower or higher Y position, just clamp between a minimum and maximum, and that's how it moves up and down like that.
Okay, anything else you want me to take a look at while we're here?
I believe that's all. There wasn't much more change to the camera
Yeah.
since last time.
Yeah, and the bulk of
Other
the
than
map stuff happened in the inspector.
most of it happened in the inspector through the culling masks. Yeah.
Okay, and I'll take a quick moment just to talk about the implementation of the driller tower. The driller tower has a bunch of variables that are accessible in the editor to set up and tweak the gameplay, and the functionality just has it detecting if it's near a resource node, and if so, it increments gradually, which increases the number display over top of the tower, which indicates how much resource it has stored. It'll store up to a maximum, and then on the player click, they'll collect all that resource and reset the resources held in the driller tower, which is a similar implementation for my coin collector tower, except that one magnetically draws in coins. And so I just wanted to blaze through that real quick before we take a last look at Morgan's work on this game save manager. And after, or I'll actually demonstrate the saving in action before she talks about the scripts. But you can see, we'll just do a couple of changes here. We'll build a quick road. Oh, sorry, let me switch back to simulator for those touches. So I'll lay down a road real quick, and I'll place a tower. And then if I save the game, Morgan, if I exit, will I be able to load that progress?
Should be able to, yes.
Okay, so let's show that off then. And there we have it. There's that road and tower that I built. Now, Morgan, if you want to talk a bit about the implementation.
Yeah, for sure. So if you go to the Game Save Manager scripts, yeah, perfect. So I'm not going to spend too much time. Saving and loading is fairly simple. You save and you load. Sorry. So with the saving in particular, I decided to go with the binary file routes. Player prefs is too simple for what we needed to save, because really we need to save the position of the roads, the enemy spawners, resource nodes, and towers. That could not be done using player prefs. So we use 2D arrays instead. So we have a 2D array of our entire map, and basically I save it. We have yeah, that's it. That's the one initialize. So if we go back to Game Save Manager, a little further down, I basically grab all the towers as well. Oh, a little higher up. There we go. Yeah. So I grab all the towers as well, save all the information, their X and Z coordinates, as well as what kind of tower they are. That is taken care of here. So that's all saved onto the binary file. when I'm loading, you'll see how I essentially work backwards. So I put all the values back for like, the surge, the experience, that kind of thing, and all whatnot. As well as I rebuild the towers and did the grid. With the map I saved, there is a function in initialize that's actually able to instantiate the entire grid from the map I give it. So build map is the one. Yeah, that's the one. So depending on which, like what specific tile is in what specific spot, it'll actually spawn a road or a like an enemy spawner or a resource node, that kind of thing. And go back into game save manager as well.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing with the towers. We place each separate tower at the spots that they were originally at. That's pretty much it for the saving and loading. Dealing with so many objects was probably the biggest challenge, but we're able to do it.
Excellent.
And
Thanks a
yeah,
lot,
I'll pass
Morgan.
it off. No worries.
Okay, so that's what we have for this build. It was a lot of work, and we've got a few little bugs and polish already planned for the next milestone. We've got our work cut out for us, and we're looking forward to it. Thanks again. This is Team FakeID, and we're showing off our game, Idle Tower Defense, in its beta stage.